Hey, Jeremy here from Long Speed Marine. I'm back on my Mercury project, my 1951 Merc, and I'm going to be taking this to a car show, the Motorama custom car show. It's going to be in the back room in the Mayhem room. This car went there before, just after the chop, so now I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm working on some of the body work, so let's get into this now. All right, so I'm going to start off with making my cardboard template here for this patch panel. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to come all the way into the door. I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap over, basically where my rocker panel ends here. So I'm going to come up from this section. I've got a little dent here that I've got to try to pop out. And so we're just going to fill this section in. Now the big difficulty here is this panel, obviously it comes around. I'm not going to go up that high. I'm going to be up about here. So there's a curve this way, and it also tapers off and curves in. But because I'm going to be putting the skirt on here, you won't really see that, so I can square this off a little bit and not worry too much. But to get this rolled edge down the bottom, where this whole piece rolls and sort of curves off at the bottom, that's the really tricky part. Now this is also a soft curve. So what I may do is try to square this piece down here up a little bit. I'm going to try and fix some of this inner as well. I'm just going to cut this off. Once I get this piece done, I'll fix this afterwards. I'll just cut this off and make a little piece that comes down. But I may try and just square this off to make it a little bit easier, and then we'll have to figure out this radius on the bottom afterwards. So it's going to be a little bit tricky to get all that and to do that. So you know, there's a couple ways to go about doing it. You can make this in two pieces, so I could make this edge piece and then weld it to my panel that I make coming down. I can try and hammer this all out and then make this curve and try to make it fit and shrink it and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not too sure what we're going to do, but the cardboard will help me. This fiber board will act somewhat like the sheet metal is going to act, and it will allow me to figure out a little bit what it's going to do when I get down into that bend. So first thing I need to do is figure out how big I need this to be, and then I'll slice it up and we will go from there. So you can see I can curve this way, no problem, but I can even curve it underneath, no problem. However, when I try to do this curve and this bend, that's where things get a little bit weird. So I'm going to tape this up into place and play with this a little bit, see what I can come up with, what the best solution is going to be for this, and then I'll sort of get back to you with what I'm doing. Okay, so I've got my panel bent the curves so that it fits nicely up here. So now I got to do the really tricky part, is make this roll. So I think what I'm going to do is use my bead roller with the tipping die and a soft bottom die. And we're just going to have to roll this, and then there's going to be some shrinking for sure that we're going to need to do somehow on this side. So hopefully I've got this. Yeah, it's going to be really tricky. We're going to see what we can do here. I'm going to try and fix this line up down the bottom. Basically just need to come along like this, like that. This one of course curves a bit. I should take all these off, but hopefully I remember that this is what I want to follow. I don't know why it does that. I'll just follow along like this. Let's make it a little bit more uniform. Again, I'm going to have a skirt on here, so I'm going to get rid of all the rest of this here. I'm going to wipe all that off. Like I said, I'm going to have the skirt covering this in, so if it's not 100% the way that it was originally, and you only look at one side of the car at a time, so if someone really wants to get fussy and figure out if they're exactly the same, well, good on you. Anyways, I'm going to get back to messing with this here, and we'll see what we can do to try and roll this edge over. Okay, so I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to do here with that soft wheel. Obviously I was able to make this bend, and we've got it just puckering up here. So what I need to do now is shrink that metal together, shrink it in, hammer it flat. I don't have a dolly. I wish I really had a nice dolly set up where they sat in a stand. There's a few people that make them. Princess Auto has some, whatever, but I don't have one at the moment, so I'm trying to figure out how I can maybe clamp this dolly to something, or weld something to something, just so that I can hammer this down and shrink this in, because the rest of this is pretty good. This bend here, I may try to hammer some of this out because I've actually gone too far in. I need that curve to start out here more. I've just gone too far over a little bit, but that shouldn't be too hard to clean up. I can probably clean that up a little bit. Even if I have to go back to the bead roller, what I can do is put the hard roller in there and then just run the bead along here, and it'll kind of straighten that out a little bit. So I'm going to get to work trying to figure out how I can clamp something or weld something to something so I can smash this corner down. Worst case scenario, what I could do is I could put a slice in here and get all this, basically just cut this, hammer it all over, and then just trim out the edge and weld it in. But I'd really rather not do that because it makes for there'll be a little crease here that I'll have to try and really fiddle with. Now again, I'm going to have skirts on the car, and you'll never really see it, but if I did take the skirts off or whatever, I just don't want it to look really weird. So I'm going to try to do this without, and worst case scenario, I'll slice it. So I'll check back to you once I figure this all out. All right, so that worked. I was able to clamp this dolly, this rounded dolly, to my table. and there I was able to hammer that down. So I just have a little bit more fine tuning in this edge to do, a little bit straightening out. I need to put it in the shrinker. My shrinker, maybe I'll try putting it in this vise behind me, but being up so high, I need the one to stomp on with the pedal. Anyways, I was able to sort of flatten this part out a little bit more and bring this curve over. But there you go. With just a little bit of effort, we can get that done. So now, I don't know how well you can see that on the camera, but in doing this, I've pulled out some of the curve on the end. That's the curve that it needs to be. And you can see this end is basically flattened out a bit. So I just need to get it in my shrinker there, and I should be able to curve this part back over and get this end back in. Now that I've got this end flattened out, now I can use that shrinker. I think that's just got it. What do you think? I think that's pretty good. Looks pretty uniform. This part in here could use a little bit more so that it matches this piece. I do need to kick that out a little bit. Let's try it on the car and see what it looks like. Huh. Well, that's her. Just need to do a little bit of finessing here when I get into this, but I'm going to cut this down anyways. I'm not going to go up that high. I'm going to come down lower, so that'll be fine. Where it gets flatter, which is in and around here. Yeah, that's going to work really well. All right, well, I got to charge some batteries. I'm going to trim this thing up and get it so that it fits in there better, but I'm happy with that. It follows the curve of the body line nicely. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe you can. Follows down nicely, follows the rocker panel, and yeah, there we go. Okay, so I've just got this tacked in place quickly. It's flush on the end, and obviously it's blown through a little bit, but it's tacked on the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is I'll just slice along here as I go and weld this up. I could go and TIG weld this, but I don't know, maybe MIG weld will be a little bit better. It's hard. I can't get up in behind here to hammer this out. So I mean, that's the great debate, TIG weld, MIG weld, but because I can't get in behind, because obviously this is closed on the bottom, maybe you can see. So because it's closed on the bottom, I can't get up in there to hammer this up. If I took this quarter panel off, sure, I could do that, but the problem with taking the quarter panel off is this butts up against a seam and has to follow along a seam in here. So how would I know that I've got this all correct? So that was kind of a thing that I was worried about, why I'm just welding this all together, because there's a lot of pieces that have to be right in order to do it that way. So I'm just going to slice along here, make sure they're flush, tack it in place, and then same thing, I'll slice down this edge, make sure it's flush, and then just tack it, and then I'll go in and just do a bunch of 5 million tacks and get that all welded up, and I'll see you back here when that's all welded together. All right, well there it is, all welded in and finished off, and I'm pretty happy with this. For an amateur that I am, I think it turned out pretty good. Looks pretty snazzy, so I'm happy with that. Obviously, I'll just need to put a little bit of filler in this. So I'm just going to carry on working on this side of the car, basically just doing a lot of boring stuff, trying to get the body work done on this side of the car. then what I'll do is go over to the other side. I have to make the exact same panel on the other side. So next step is I got to weld the back of the quarter panel up because I cut it to take it off at one point. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and start grinding and finishing off the top stuff from doing the chop on the top of this car. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that stuff up. Then I'll get over onto the other side, basically do the exact same panel, rocker panel, and all that on the other side. And then eventually get to cleaning the whole body up a little bit better, spraying some rust stuff on it, and painting it some snazzy colors. So thanks for tagging along on this one. Really appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that subscribe, smash the like, follow along with this and all my other junk that I'm working on. Thanks very much and take care.